Thanks so much to all my patrons. Join now to help support the channel and help pick the books I review on this channel. Link in the description. Go buy this book. I just go buy this book. It's so good. Oh my god. I have a normal intro thing I do. Let's just scrap it. Let's just scrap it. This book is crazy. This book is crazy good. I just read a top 10 best fantasy book of all time. And I get to say that increasingly less the longer I do this channel, but holy fucking shit, that book was good. This book is like tailor-made for me. Oh my god, why aren't you guys not reading The Sun Eater yet? I get that some of you are reading it if you're watching this, but the vast majority of you are not. And why? What? This is so good. I feel like I'm reading a series that is going to go down as an all-time great, not for me, but for like the greater masses. Like, this just feels like the next enormous thing in fantasy sci-fi literature. And I know it's like getting more popular, but I feel like it's going to pop. It has to. Like, I have faith in humanity that a large number of people are going to connect with this series the further it goes along, and it's so good. Like, somebody needs to make this an HBO show. This needs to be a thing. It's like, this needs to be the biggest thing. God, I need to try to focus, Matt. Let's get on track here. So I knew that I'd love this. I knew I'd love it because I've been increasingly loving Christopher Ruocchio's books as I go along, the novels. I feel like the novellas and the smaller works can be a little more hit and miss for me, but I don't really like shorter works. I like big, epic, fantasy tomes. But each of the 3 books that preceded this in the main series, I have liked more and more and more. I feel like the third book that I read was, a top 10, top 15 best fantasy book that I've ever read, and this one is clearly better than it. And for me, I mean, I think that a large majority of people are going to say that the third one is the best of the bunch, at least out of the 4 that I've read. There is a 5th one out, Ash is a Man, that I have not read yet, that just got skyrocketed up my TBR list. And the 6th book, which I think comes out in less than a month, or maybe a week away. So I have a little bit of catching up to do. But everyone's told me that the 4th and 5th books should really be considered like one book, and you can't really review them independently. That's what a crock of, bull. That's totally not true. Maybe it is better. I can't conceive how, but maybe it's better if you read them back to back. But this was a perfect book from start to finish, and it most certainly did have a finish. I feel like the 3rd book had more of these major set pieces with more hope to it. You had more of these moments that get you a little teary-eyed and are making you jump up out of your chair and cheering for the protagonist. This one felt like grim. This was grim, dark fantasy, sci-fi, space opera, but really big emphasis on the grim dark. Now, I love grim dark. The grimmer and the darker the better for me. And this is just such a perfect book. Oh my god. Okay, those are my thoughts without talking about anything. Let's break down a little bit and try to talk about this a little bit. But stop watching this video. Just go buy The Sun Eater. Empire of Silence. Start the journey. The first book might not blow you out of the water. It certainly, kind of did for me, but it sets the stage, and then things will start blowing you out as you go a little bit further along. But god dang, this book is good. God, sorry, I know this review is kind of useless because I just keep saying the same thing over and over, but my brain's not working. I'm just so happy. This is awesome. It's such a good feeling to have for somebody like me, where I feel like I've been reading a lot of books that are just okay recently, and then just to get hit with something like this is just a friggin' treat. So in this series, and I'm going to try not to spoil things because it's hard not to, but I can talk a little bit because of the framing device that's used, because it spoils the book, the whole series, within the first couple of pages of the first book, because this book is told in the Name of the Wind kind of style, where it's a character telling their life story. In this case, he's writing it down. And so you already know the ending. The ending is that there was a war between an alien race called the 𝐒𝐨𝐿𝐼𝐚, I think I'm saying that right, and humans. And the humans won because of this man, Hadrian Marlowe, the one who is writing down his life story. And he is nicknamed the Sun Eater because he destroyed a sun, and in doing that, he destroyed, I think, like the home planet of these aliens. I'm still not quite understanding how that would destroy them, because they have thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of planets, but something happens where he wins the war for the humans, and he's kind of looked as somebody who's created the greatest atrocity in the history of the universe, for ending a giant alien civilization, but also as a hero. So I don't really know which one he will be heralded as this ends, but so I can talk briefly that this series is about this man Hadrian, who is he's gifted in physically, and he ends up getting some kind of magical type powers as the series goes along. I don't want to say more than that, but he's just like the best, and he ends up getting the attention of the emperor and getting into his employ, and he keeps getting sent on these missions where he's destined to lose, and he ends up finding a way to become a war hero. And he ends up, by this book, becoming so popular that he essentially gets exiled. Because if you're a fan of history, a very, very immensely popular war general is not necessarily what the leadership would want, because that becomes the number one person that may overthrow you. Now, in this book, I don't. You get it from Hadrian's perspective. In no way would he ever want to be the emperor, but he's looked at like that. So this book, starts off with Hadrian in a form of exile. And throughout the book, and I can't really say more than that, which is rough because I want to chat about this book. Come to my Discord, check the link down below if you want to chat about what's going on here. But the book takes some of the darkest turns that I've ever seen taken in a story. It is bleak, it's miserable, and I loved it. I love that sort of thing. It just tugs on the emotions. It puts him in these situations that seem impossible to overcome, even though you know that he clearly does, not just because he's the protagonist of a story from a single point of view book, he's going to live, but the book already tells you that he lives at the beginning. But still, the tension is ramped up so high. The world building is just amazing. It's just, everything about this book feels perfect. From the characters to the amazing way that Christopher Ruocchio writes, and he's somehow gotten better and better as these books have gone along, to the point where it's just a masterclass of writing. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than this in terms of a quality of writing perspective. His character work is turning into one of his strengths. When I felt like at the beginning it was something where I was like wanting a little bit more out of these characters a little bit, but now it's every character feels so real and perfect, and the trauma that these characters are going through wears on them. This adventure does this awesome thing where the character, it's portraying the universe as it is, which is immensely, inconceivably big. And the distance between planets and stars is inconceivably big. And the character has to go from, one end of the universe to the other to fight these wars and go back. And that would take a very long time, even if you had ships that are capable of going immense speeds. And the way that it combats this is the way a lot of sci-fi books do, is that he goes into a cryogenic freeze. A lot of people do when they go on these journeys, which stops the body from getting older. Now, in this book, you've got these characters that are born from a certain class, because they've been bred and genetically modified over time to live, hundreds of years. So this book takes place over many, 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 many hundreds of years. And Hadrian will go from a planet to the next and go and freeze and wake up, and hundreds of years have passed, and he has to deal with the moral, feeling of everyone I know is probably dead. but I still have to keep going on this mission, or everybody I left behind. And he ages with his crew that can't live as long as him because he's this patrician class and they're not. And just dealing with these moments and the way that the time is stretched out in this is just perfect. There's so many ways that this could have been fumbled, where you get these moments where characters are going too quickly from point A to point B, or they don't have to deal with these problems where it's just like, all right, we're now here and let's just continue on with the story. But the way Ruocchio writes it is this is a traumatic thing and hard to grapple with, and it's as one would expect something like that would be if you had to undergo something like this, where every time you're awake, something is happening because you're going down in these slow moments and you're just called to action all the time. And that's hard. But I felt like this book also got so much better than the previous ones in their portrayal of the 𝐒𝐮 aliens. You got to see them much more up close and personal in this one. There's these moments where he's encountering another group of humans that are not part of his empire, something that the book has told you about, but it kind of flew over my head a little bit. For some reason in my head, I was thinking this is just like humans on one side, 𝐒𝐮 on the other. But there's different, empires that are part of the human race that are not in agreement with each other. And there's a large portion of this book where he has to deal with one of them. I work in politics, and while I don't like to talk politics on this channel, I love it when my books inject some politics into them. And Ruocchio just did it in spades here. The diplomatic negotiations going on. He said that Hadrian's going to go on this diplomatic mission, and I feel like a lot of people reading that are like, ugh. And I read that and go, yes, this is dope. And then the twists and turns that go along with it are just, they're truly perfect. This is a perfect book. I don't know what else to say. Go get the Sun Eater, start this journey. It's not one of these series that it's like a Song of Ice and Fire where you have no faith that it's going to end. Ruocchio is pumping out these books. If anybody deserves to get somebody to jump in a series with confidence that it's going to end, it's got to be Ruocchio. I think the book that comes out in a week or two is going to be the second to last book, maybe the third to last, but I think the second to last. And he's writing these books every year or two. And so the series is going to be done soon. So get on board. Get on the hype train. It's real. If you like sci-fi, you're probably already reading this, but you should have started a long time ago. I don't need to tell you that you're missing out on one of, if not the greatest sci-fi series of all time. If you're an epic fantasy fan, this is right up your alley too. If you're a grimdark fan, God, it doesn't get a ton darker than this. If you love good writing, if you love good characters, if you love good books, I mean, there are some people that won't like these things. There are some people that are like, yeah, I'd like my stories to be happier and lighthearted and smaller and not dense, and that this isn't for you. But if you need something thought-provoking that is going to be dense, that is going to get dark, and that is going to perfectly blend sci-fi and fantasy, God, it doesn't get better than this. Very, very, very few books do. So I'm going to wrap up my love fest for this book here. God, I can't wait to keep going on the series. But yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this. Go buy the series. And as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all of my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Anna G, CJ, Doust, Darren, Gil, Gregory, JD, Jonathan, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, 𝗿𝗏𝗏, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Tay C, Tahir, Tommy, Zion, Anna, Andra, Blair, Brock, Evan, Joe UK, Kat Mick, Michael Sugarman, Philippe, Sky, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.